Okay, hey. Al Pizeh, according to this, Yesh Lomar or Yesh Lavoer, we can explain. Now we're in the fifth paragraph of the Maimer HaChodesh Etzel Lechem, which is in Contrasium base. Al Pizeh, according to this Yesh Lavoer, we can explain what it says in the Maimer, that Parshas HaChodesh was said miyad immediately after the Jews left Egypt. That's what the fifth Rebbe of Chabad says in his Maimer, that this commandment of counting the months, sanctifying the months, was said immediately after the Jews left Egypt. L'chora tamua, this is a very big wonder. Anyone can see that this chapter was not said after the Jews left Egypt. The sentence that says right before the commandment of the parsha of the Chodesh, of sanctifying the month, it says, "Vayedaber Hashem el Moshe be'eretz Mitzrayim lemor." Vayomer Hashem el Moshe be'eretz Mitzrayim, that God spoke to Moshe in the land of Egypt. And it's a known thing, if so, this happened before the Jews left. Now, it's a known thing that the Torah is not necessarily written in its proper order, the chronological order that it happened. God had his reasons for writing everything, putting everything where he did put it. It's not a mistake. There are things that are written not in the proper order. One of the best examples is in Parshas Mishpatim, which is after God gave the Torah and gave everything. All of a sudden, it talks about, right in the end, it talks about things that happened before God gave the Torah. So here's another example. God gave Moshe the commandment of counting the months before the Jews left Egypt. But in the Torah, it's written after the Jews left Egypt. In Parshas Bo, in Parshas Va'era, there are the first 7 plagues that God brought on the Egyptians. On Parshas Bo, there's the last 3 plagues that he brought on them. Then it talks about how the Jews they slaughtered the lamb or the goat, and they put the blood on the doors, and God passed over, and he killed all the firstborn, and the Jews left Egypt. And then it says, God says to Moshe in the land of Egypt, this month is the first month. You have to sanctify the month. So Yesh Lomar, the Mashikatu b'Maimer, that's what it says in the Maimer. Shaparshat HaChodesh Ne'amra was said after Yetziat Mitzrayim. Hakavana, the intention is after Amiras Sipur Yetziat Mitzrayim. After it tells, in the Torah, tells the whole story of how the Jews sacrificed the lamb and they all left Egypt, then is the commandment of counting the months. Afterwards it says all the commandments of the Torah. Kapara, 1 second, excuse me. Yetzias Mitzrayim, like is written in the Torah. And after it says all the commandments in the Torah to Paro, that he should send the Jews away, until Hatra, the last warning, the Makas Bechoros of the firstborn. She'achrei, after Paro says, Tzeyata, go, all the people. Immediately after that, he says, go out of Egypt, and the Jews did it, Ne'amar, it says the Parsha of the Chodesh. In other words, this commandment to sanctify the months was really said before the Jews left Egypt. So why does the previous Rebbe say that it happened after? He says because it's in the Torah, it's written after. And why is it written after? Why is it written after? Inyan the Milas Agili the Torah, that the highness of the revelation of the Torah, Al Agili the almost, on the revelation of the worlds, which we just explained, and which the previous Rebbe explains. No. No. But in that Milas Agili, the Torah on the Gili of the worlds, is also the Gili of the worlds, how it is in the Torah. What's going on over here? What did we just finish explaining? We just explained that the worlds come from the essence of God, but the Torah comes from a higher level of the essence of God. And the Torah comes from a less concealed aspect of the essence of God. So the Torah is higher, and also it's less concealed. In other words, there's more revealed godliness, and there's deeper godliness in the Torah. But one second, in the Torah is also talked about the worlds. The world is mentioned in the Torah. Bereshis bara Elokim es hashamayim v'ha'aretz. That's part of the world is part of the Torah. So if so, what do you mean that the Torah is higher than the world? As though there are two things. Here we see that the world itself comes from the Torah. So it's the world, it's not that there's a world and then there's the Torah is given in the world. Right? Like all the other religions. What do they have, all the religions? All the other religions are, there's a world, and then we have the key, how to get out of the world. How to get into heaven. The world is not good. The religion is good. Heaven is even better. You're going to go into heaven. That's all the other religions. Judaism is not that way. Judaism says the world and the Torah and God are all one. There's only one. All there is one God. God is creating everything. He's creating the world. He's creating the Torah. He's creating everything. Says the Rebbe, but the Torah is higher than the world. This is very good, but the world is mentioned in the Torah. The whole creation of the world and the being of the world is part of the Torah. So the Rebbe said that's the whole point over here. That the Torah is higher than the world, even how the world is mentioned in the Torah. The Torah is higher than the world. What does it mean? The Zeu Shemevi Maimer, that's what it says in the Maimer, what the Rebbe Rishab brings in his Maimer, what Rashi says. Rashi says, Lo ayat tzorich litchila Torah, the Torah did not have to begin Ella, but mihachodesh hazelachem, from this commandment of sanctifying the month. That was the first commandment given to all the Jewish people. That's really the whole point of the Torah. The point of the Torah is the commandments. God commands the Jewish people what we could do. The rest is very nice stories, about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You can stick that in later on, right? Put in a story like Abraham did. Remember what Abraham did. Remember what Isaac did, right? Make a little hint over there in the Torah. Right? The land that I gave to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then there's what's called Midrash. You look in the Midrash and it tells you all the stories about Abraham, Isaac. Why do you have to have all these stories written in the Torah? It says, really? Well, maybe it's not really so necessary, says Rashi. Really, the Torah could have begun from this commandment here. Achodesh hazeh lachem, sanctify the months. And then you'll have remembrances how the Jews got out of Egypt, and it'll be a little innuendos will be written in the Torah. Oh, a little word here, you left Egypt, and then leave up other books to explain it. I mean, there's a lot of things which are explained in the Midrash, which are not written in the Torah. For instance, Abraham was... None of the stories, right? Abraham was in a fiery furnace. Not none of the stories, but he was thrown into a fiery furnace, and
the idols is
right? Moshe, the Paro wanted to cut off his head, and then his neck turned to stone. These stories are not written. The Midrash is wonderful. It's beautiful. It has all these amazing, amazing stories. There's a Gadata, also stories. Why put them in the Bible? The Holy Bible, every word in the Bible is holy. Every letter is holy, right? These things are stories. They're not really so relevant, every detail. All the stories about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The mitzvahs, that's important. The mitzvah, you have to do the mitzvahs properly, right? It's very nice.
Doesn't Rashi say that we could have started?
That's what he says.
But then...
1 second, 1 minute, 1 minute. Oh. Says Rashi, Uma tam patach bereshis. What are you telling me? God made a mistake. He should have started it later on. But he just likes to talk. So God wanted to tell a story, right? It's like every time you go and you want to buy a Ford car, you have to hear the whole story about, Henry Ford and who he was and where he came from. And this. I don't want to hear the stories. I want a car that works and that's it. Right? The same thing with the Torah. What do I have the Torah for? To do the commandments. I have to hear about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What do I have to hear about these stories for? Says the reason is because why did God open Bereshis? Shagam inyan Bereshis Bora. That also this idea that God created the world. Va'al derech zeh, and similar the story of Avram, of Yitzchak, of Yaakov. Kamoshu b'Torah, as it is in the Torah, it is only hakdama. This is a preparation for Parshat HaChodesh. And this is only a preparation for doing the commandments. The Torah wants you to know why you're doing the commandments. What's the point of the commandments? How Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, how they gave their lives just so that we would be able to do the commandments. Connect to the Creator. The Parsha Zu, but this section, this commandment of sanctifying the month, the first commandment, Hu Ikarat Chalat Torah, this is really the main beginning of the Torah, but you had to have the preparation. To learn about Lahavdil, to learn about Henry Ford has nothing to do whatsoever with how you're driving the car. What do you care about how a car was made? You don't have to even know about how a car was made. You have to know anything about it. The Torah is not so. The Torah, your attitude is very important. The reason why we're learning, what is Judaism? What is it? You learn a book, you go to heaven. Right? That's the point of Judaism. Why Abraham didn't have this book. It says Abraham did the whole Torah before it was given. What does that mean? What does that mean? That his desire to be one with God and to make God revealed in the world to the non-Jews was so great that he came to the conclusion, he realized God's will way before it was given in Mount Sinai. The main thing is God's giving on Mount Sinai. Lochen, therefore, Gam ben Nogel inyan Yitzias Mitzrayim. Also the whole story of going out of Egypt, which this is only a preparation. This is part of the story of the Avos, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, Moshe, going out of Egypt. All of this is just a story to prepare us for Matan Torah, for giving the mitzvahs, getting the mitzvahs. Medubar b'mamar al inyan Yetziat Mitzrayim, as it is in the Torah. In other words, the whole story of the creation of the world, and even the story of going out of Egypt. This is all a preparation for the mitzvot. And the mitzvot were on Mount Sinai. There were certain mitzvot that God gave before Mount Sinai. That was also a preparation for Mount Sinai. Nothing like Mount Sinai ever happened in the history of the world. But the point is the Jews have to be spiritually and emotionally and intellectually prepared in order to do the commandments. Just to do the commandments cold, you say, you do this commandment and you go to heaven. So you'll do the commandments, right? But it won't be with any fire, with any interest, with any love, with any awe. You're doing a thing because you don't know what's going on in the world anyway, and especially what's going to be after you die. So you do the commandments. Everybody tells you to do the commandments. Your father did the commandments. Not only that, you might meet influential people in shul. Maybe you'll meet your future father-in-law over there. You might get a job. Who knows what's going to be in shul? It's boring. You sit at home. You go to shul, right? And you do the commandments because everybody does them. Your religion is a nice thing. Keeps you in order, right? Keeps you off the streets. All these are wonderful, good reasons, right, to do religions. But that's not the reason for Judaism. The reason for Judaism is to serve the Creator. To make this world a perfect place. That's what God wants. And in order to do that, you have to have all the stories about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, etc. But the real point of it is the commandments. And this is the first commandment given to the Jewish people, sanctifying the months. So now we can attach this Shegilia Torah, that the revelation of the Torah was higher, even of the revelation of the worlds, how they are in the Torah. In Mashanis, what we said before in Sif Zion, in the fourth paragraph of this mimer. Shegilia Torah, that the revelation of the Torah is higher than the revelation of the worlds. Mi'atzmos or Ein Sof, from the essence of the infinite light of God. Or Ein Sof is another name for God. Shelamayla, which is above Mikol Tzimtzumim, from all of the contractions and concealments that God made in order to create the world, even from the Tzimtzum, which are before the first contraction. Usually in Chassidut and in Kabbalah, it's only talked about what's called the first contraction. And here it says in Chassidut, revealed that there are all these other contractions of God's will and God's light, God's mind and God's wisdom before he gave the Torah. Before he created the world. Well, the Torah comes from this level which is totally above any connection to the world. Al Pia Yadua, like it's known, the Kalalas Kol Torah, that the whole entire Torah, even the stories of the Torah, which are before this commandment of sanctifying the month, Kadma La'olam, everything is before the world. The stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this is before the world existed.
Say that again?
The stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, everything that's written, the Torah is before the world. The world is created from the Torah. When we say that, we don't mean just the mitzvahs of the Torah. I mean the whole Torah is before the world. Like it says, Breshit, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. This was in God's mind. The Torah was in God's mind or in God's will before he actually did create the world.
Isn't the Midrash that Hashem looked into the Torah and created the world?
Looked into the Torah, created very, very good. Okay, part of the world is time, right? Part of time is everything that happens in time. So Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moshe, Aaron, going out of Egypt, everything that the Jews, everything that happened in the Torah was there before it was written. Everything that happened in the world is there before it was written. This, of course, the immediate question is, once again, if it was all there before, so we don't have any free will, we're just like, it's like, watching the same movie 20 times, you know what's going to happen in the end. We're pre-planned, so we don't have any free will no matter what we're going to do. So we'll talk about that at a different time. I mean, it's an obvious question. And there's a lot of answers that are given, and none of them like really satisfy, because we're talking about God over here, you understand? We're talking about God. We're talking about God creating us. We're talking about God creating time. This is not comprehensible.
How God thinks and how we think is nothing.
Like I said before, it's like Albert Einstein trying to explain nuclear physics to a rock, to Mount Rushmore. Go over there and talk to Mount Rushmore all you want to. He's not going to explain it, right? Mount Rushmore and Einstein are in the world together. They're both creations. God is the creator. He's infinitely further away from us than Einstein's theory of relativity is from Mount Rushmore, from what it was George Washington's statue over there with the face on Mount Rushmore. You know what Mount Rushmore is? It's a place in, where's it, Colorado or something?
They want to tear it down, I think.
Really, do they?
Something stupid. They want to tear it down.
Maybe somebody will buy it.
It's racist.
So, it's racist. Somebody could sell it on AliExpress.
I got a guy. I'm interested, right?
But the faces as they appear there are not white on Mount Rushmore. The faces are like stone color. So what's wrong with that? I guess
the people who
they represent. Yeah.
Racist.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Who's over there? What, Washington and Jefferson and Teddy Roosevelt and Farrakhan. Let's go. That's why they're angry. Just make another one.
They want Obama.
All right. Let's be serious. Not too serious. Okay. You do it there. Klalos kol Torah. That the whole Torah, even the story, it's all before the world. Since that the beginning of the world was the Tzimtzum Rishon. The world began when God contracted his light, so to speak. And the Torah is before the world. This is the Or Ein Sof, which is before any of the contractions. And when it says the Torah, it means everything in the Torah, including all the stories in the Torah, including Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov. The Yeteremizo, even more, we can say the Mekav, in the sense that also this light which is before the Tzimtzum. And there's already the beginning of Medidas HaOlamos in the light which is before God created the worlds. God's will. It already was measured how he was going to create the worlds. That the Torah was before the world. This is what says Torah Kadma La'olam. This is in the light which is in the Gilui, La'atzmo, Shalamayla Mishaychas La'olamos. This is how God, so to speak, thought to himself. Now, again, we cannot take this at face value, but on the other hand, we do know that God exists, and we do know the world exists. Somehow or other, it happened. Right? How did it happen? So you can say, God made evolution. And so God was sitting way out there. He made a few laws, and he let the world go. And God did whatever he's busy doing other things. Right? But Chassidus says that's not so. If so, where's the commandment to love God? What are you going to love him for? He's not even home. Right? Not even there. My father left home. Was what one
gone fishing.
One what do they call it? One parent family. How do they call it? Single mother and family. Right. Here, all the Jews are brought up alone. The world was created, and God just took off. So we say no. God is creating the world every instance. God is creating time. Time is above. Nevertheless, the Torah is above this. The Torah is in the world, and at the same time, it's infinitely higher than the source of the world, even though the world comes from the essence of God. This is the stories of the Torah, which is before the Parshas HaChodesh. All the stories which are written in the Torah, the creation of the world, Adam, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef, Moshe, Noach, all these stories, wonderful stories, how the Jews got out of Egypt, miraculous stories, that all comes before, in the Torah, it comes before this commandment of sanctifying the month. Even though chronologically it wasn't that way.
Even more interesting, the sin of the golden calf, the sin of the spies, all in the Torah.
That's right. Yes. The Rebbe has a beautiful sikha about that. But Ili the Parshas HaChodesh, Ikar, the beginning of the Torah, is the revelation of the essence of God before all of the Tzimtzumim. So that's what happens on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Rosh Chodesh Nisan signifies the beginning of Nisim, miracles. And the biggest miracle of all is that God gave us the responsibility of putting his essence into the world by means of the Torah, which we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow.